Pouring in for a first on Fox Business interview, Congressman Ron Paul. He is a member of the House Financial Services Committee. We want to get his take on the hearings. Congressman, good afternoon, sir. Nice to see you again.
Good afternoon. Thank you.
You brought up a very interesting question, which you directed at Fed Chairman Ben Bernanke, about the fact that you are concerned that the U.S. dollar will not be the currency of choice for the global markets. Why bring up that particular concern on a day when the discussion was about TARP?
Because in many ways, financially, it's earth-shattering to think that the dollar will no longer get the benefit of being the reserve currency of the world, and I think that's what this crisis is all about. If we don't have this privilege of printing money out of thin air and spending it overseas, our standard of living has to go down. But it's already started down because it has been declared that this system no longer functions. But he would not admit that they've already talked about it, which I rather doubt. I think they have been talking plenty because they know this system doesn't work. And they concentrate on the technicalities, spending and borrowing, inflating and management and buying assets. I don't think any of that's going to work. It hasn't been working. They're all messed up and they're just floundering on looking for answers. But the real answer has to come in a financial system change and changing the reserve currency of the world. He did admit, quite frankly, that I was absolutely right about the current account deficit. The foreign indebtedness that we have is a major problem. But that came about because we had no commodity behind our standard. There was no self-adjusting mechanism. So we just accumulated up this huge debt. You can't do this if you have a commodity standard. You have to adjust much sooner.
Congressman, I want to let our viewers at home know that behind you we have a live picture of the committee hearing, and that committee has adjourned. That was just moments ago. They're watching that on their screen. You mentioned buying of the assets, but Congressman, they're not going to be buying assets. We had a reversal last week by Treasury Secretary Paulson. What about this new plan from Paulson, that they're just going to do direct capital infusions? Do you agree with that then?
No, it won't be any more successful. Something will come up that they didn't anticipate. Their first attempt to buy all these assets didn't work. Now they're going to try to bail out all the mortgage people who have mortgages to deal with. But that's not going to work because they're doing the opposite of what the market is demanding. The market is demanding the liquidation of debt and let prices fall. You don't want to keep housing prices artificially high. You want the housing prices to come down so people who have saved, who qualify, can buy houses. But to keep up prices high automatically is price fixing, and price fixing destroys the market. That's what socialism is all about. That's why socialism fails. And here we have created this monster by price fixing with interest rates. Now we're price fixing with the assets and the different things and trying to maintain a system that is not viable. It's unworkable, and yet they don't see this. They continue to think they're very important and they're going to solve this problem through tinkering.
All right, let's go back here for the first question, which was about the currency. Are you suggesting that this country go back on the gold standard, and do you think that if that is your argument, that that's even plausible in this situation?
Well, it wouldn't be easy to shift gears, but yes, they have to think about that. When currencies have failed throughout history, in order to get confidence back into the system, they've always had to use something that they could trust, like a commodity. And right now, he's saying that they are not considering it, yet I pointed out that the central banks still have a lot of gold. Now, he did make one point that they're trying to sell the gold, but the point of central banks, certain central banks selling gold, is trying to pretend the dollar is stronger than it really is. Just like we did in the 60s, we sold all, 500 million ounces of gold at $35 an ounce, but that didn't last. So we're doing that still, and he wanted to show everybody, well, we're still selling gold, which makes no sense whatsoever. So yes, we should use gold. We should go back to it, but the market can determine this, and no group of central economic planners and central bankers can all of a sudden come up with Bretton Woods 2 and say, oh, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to watch the gold price or something like that. That's not going to happen. Well, the market is more powerful than the central bankers.
Congressman, here's the thing, though. You and Barney Frank and the committee brought Treasury Secretary Paulson and Ben Bernanke and Sheila Bair there to explain the shift in TARP. A lot of you asking for more oversight, a lot of you saying that you were concerned about how the money was being used by banks. Did you get any answers today? Because, frankly, I have to say from a viewer's perspective, the congressmen were talking a lot more than the Fed chairman at one point. But Do you think that you got any answers that satisfied you or dissatisfied you this morning?
Well, no, I got no answers that satisfied me, and I didn't expect to get any because they don't have answers, because the system doesn't work, and changing the rules right now won't help that much either. They're making the problems worse. They're spending more money. They're borrowing more money. They're inflating the currency more, and that's what caused the problem. So how can they tinker with a system that has been built on all these errors and continue the errors? I mean, we're doing the same things, but the members of Congress, you know, they like to feel important, and they like to have control and know what's happening and pretend that, oh, now we better bail out the house owners, make sure they don't lose their houses, and that's going to solve all the problems. And that will just delay the agony. It will prevent the correction, and it will drive us into a depression is what it'll do. Because this is very similar to what we did in the early 1930s. We didn't allow the corrections to occur. Prior to 1930, we always allowed the liquidation of debt. The truth is, we should have allowed the liquidation of debt when this problem started. And it wasn't last year. It was in the year 2000. That's when the market broke. And yet we propped it up with this huge housing bubble and tremendous inflation and interest rates at 1%. And it worked to a degree. But now their tools don't work anymore. And that's what they're going to have to accept.
Congressman, it's Adam Shapiro, and I have two questions for you. First, in regards to Sheila Bair's proposal, which some people say is very conservative, having a debt-to-income ratio of 31% for people who get refinanced. What do you think of her proposal? And then on the other spectrum, back to the fiat and the dollar as the reserve currency. If you don't think the dollar is going to be the reserve currency in the future, why are foreigners buying U.S. treasuries and really flying back to the United States?
Well, probably because they're buying up our assets, and in the interim, they have to have dollars to do this. So do you think they're investing in Treasury bills at 0.00%? I mean, that's not an investment. They're losing there. They're just parking their money there, or they're using that money to buy up assets. So temporarily, they're parking their money in dollars. But what happens when they shift out of dollars into other assets, you know, real assets, buying up buildings and buying metals and hard assets? And then you're going to see the price inflation which is coming.
Congressman Paul, we did hear from Treasury Secretary Paulson that he did not believe that TARP money should be used for the auto industry. Your thoughts?
Well, he's correct about that. It shouldn't be used for anything. They shouldn't even have it. So to use it for the auto industry and just prop up once again a bad economic policy. Look at what they've been doing in Michigan. They have wages twice as high as they do in the South. Then they wonder why they go bankrupt. Taxes are high up there. Regulations are more onerous. And people in the South have been building cars, and they've had new jobs in the last year or two. They haven't lost the jobs like they have in Michigan. So what do? We prop up the bad guys with the good guys' money. So we tax the people in the South who've been working and doing the right things and prop up a state like Michigan. No, they don't deserve it. Why reward mistakes and the things that they've done in the auto industry for decades?
That debate's certainly going to continue. Congressman Ron Paul from Texas. Congressman, great to see you again. Thanks for being with us, sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
And Kathy Boyle is with us.